Well, hello everyone. June 3rd, and it's time again for our kind of monthly stats brief. And I thought that I would start things off. Notice that the mustache is gone, so that may not be back, although the goatee might. But you can notice the COVID thing is getting my hair to grow long. Anyway, we'll see just how long it can get. I thought today was pretty kind of funny because the other day, and I was talking to a seller, and I thought, you know, um, how is this year faring from last year? Like because 2019, didn't have COVID and things like that. So I started running the numbers, and I found something that I thought was fascinating. Now, if you're not a numbers file, that's completely okay. So hopefully, we will give you the feel for it anyway. And what I found was when I looked at the amount of sales that happened at the same time period, so for the first 5 months of the year, so from January 1st to May 31st in 2020, during which we've had COVID since, sort of late February. And that same period, January 1st to June 1st or May 31st, in 2019. And the numbers were actually very surprising. I was kind of blown away. In West Vancouver, I'll just cover that briefly. Last year, to sales to date, we had 156 homes sold. And this year, we've sold 158 homes, so only two off, okay? The same thing on the west side, there was 290 homes sold, actually 294 homes sold in 2019, and this year 290 sold. So you're only four off over 300 homes in the sales. So that I kept going, and I thought, okay, I'm going to check with Richmond, and Richmond is pretty much the same. 283 homes sold last year, near 250 this year. Burnaby, similar numbers in Burnaby were the same. So I was really quite shocked with that because of all the talk about how COVID's keeping a cap on home prices, and that's a real downward pressure. I think that it is having an effect, but by the looks of it, not much more effect than it had last year. By the way, last year we were carrying a far greater number of active listings. So in actuality, with inventories below what they were last year, our percentages are actually, quite reasonable. So the only one that was actually a little bit different from last year to this year was North Van. In North Van last year, they'd sold 300 homes in 2019 from the first 5 months of the year. And this year, it was about 260. So, 40% or 40 houses off over 300. So, that is looking at about 12 or 13% less sales this year, but not the kind of impact I would have given COVID in the real estate market, okay? Now, mind you, if you've seen my stats brief before, then I get hung up on what this ratio called the active sales to actives ratio. And it's kind of a barometer of the market. And when you talk about a buyer's market or a seller's market, you're really talking about who's dictating the flow of the market. In a seller's market, multiple offers are happening. Sellers are dictating when offers are presented, when are inspections being done, when are showings being done. And quite the opposite in a buyer's market. The sellers are praying to have their homes, looked at. So they bend over backwards for showings and things like that. So what we call a buyer's market is when the buyers are dictating, the flow of the market. And the seller's market is the opposite. It's when sellers are dictating the flow of the market. But the literal ratio or numeric equation that we're looking at is what we call the sales to actives ratio. And at 15, it's considered balanced. And when it gets up to about 18%, that's sort of getting kind of heated up, right? You know, you're going down below 6 months worth of inventory on the marketplace. So 18 to 20% is kind of pushing into that seller's market. And it's also got some upward pressure on price, okay? And you've heard me say this before. If 15 is balanced, then you get down to 12% and below. And now you start finding yourself in a very buyer's market mentality, okay? And that is because you've got a year's worth of inventory on the market, and you know buyers have a lot to choose from, okay? So based on the fact that inventories have fallen this year as opposed to last, we're still looking at 19% in North Van. So that's, you know, getting up into that, you know, seller's market. West Van and the West Side and Richmond are still hovering around the 10% mark, which again, statistically, is not something that we haven't lived with for the past 3 or 4 years since, you know, 2017. And North Van actually is kind of funny because it's really broken up into 2 markets. You got the under 1.6 is pistol hot, multiple offers, things going crazy, and then anything over 1.8 is sits around like West Van and the West Side, and that drops down to single digit sales to actives ratio. So I took all of that and I kind of thought on the you know predominant municipalities here that we deal with, we've had a similar activity to 2019. Now the market's a dynamic thing, and it's going all over all the time. You know, I know you don't think so because you're not doing it every day like me, and it's going everywhere all over the time. So one of the things that happened in 2019 is 2018 was quite dismal too. So the beginning of 2019, the numbers weren't great. And it wasn't until the fall that the numbers actually picked up, okay? Whereas in 2020, we were coming off of that fall surge in volume and demand, okay? And we had then COVID hit us and knock us down a little bit. So 2019, we cruised through 2019, started to get better really late in the year. In 2020, we started off hot. Now we've kind of slowed down. And I got to say, my prognostication for the rest of the year is that once we kind of break through, and of course, you know, there's all this talk of maybe a second wave, but if we break through and get more comfortable, and with our protocols and all of the things that we're doing to sort of stay safe and real estate being an essential service, we could see a very good, solid, pent-up demand that kind of actualizes into the fall. And our fall, our fourth quarter for our year, could be quite strong. And I'm anticipating that's kind of the way of it. I'm getting the feeling that there's a lot of energy that people are just containing in. And as soon as they're prepared to kind of go outside, we're going to go bang. So that's kind of my stats brief here in the middle of the year. And each month we kind of go, oh, what's going to happen? What's going on? And it's reassuring to see that, you know, we're no worse off than last year. And, you know, and I'm looking up, you know, for the balance of the year. It might take a few months of that to kick in. I'm expecting kind of that September to December to be good. Anyway, we'll see, you know, my crystal ball and everything. I hope you have a great day. I hope you're staying safe. You know, be happy, be healthy. Okay? Cheers.